Hi, it's Michael Joseph, and today we're going to be talking about buying signals. And as a sales professional, we all recognize those all golden moments when we're on the phone or maybe we receive an email where we're talking about our product or service or maybe the features or benefits, and then all of a sudden the conversation shifts to talking about pricing or payment terms. Now, those are huge and obvious buying signals. In this video, we're going to talk about a little bit different of a buying signal coming from a company instead of an individual. Now, keep in mind too, when we're talking about buying signals, it's incredibly important that we leverage the intelligence that we collect, both from the person we're speaking to and the company we're targeting, into one cohesive sales approach. So today, we're going to be talking about buying signals that are coming from the company. In essence, when you dial out and you make that first phone call or send that first email, you want to have a good sense that you're calling just at the right time. Now, in previous videos, we have talked about the critical importance of identifying your ideal client profile to be able to define what type of target market you're going after, whether or not that's the type of company and industry that they live in, or the size of company based upon annual revenue or maybe number of employees, or geographic territory of that company. In all of those definitions, make sure you start with a very clear picture of the type of company you're targeting. In addition, make sure that you're identifying and defining the type of persona, the decision maker at those companies that you'll be reaching out to and pitching your product or service to. But in this video, we're going to take it one step further. We're going to talk about buying signals coming from the company itself. Now, one of these examples is funding rounds. Now, with a funding round, you know that that company is positioned to grow and scale. As a matter of fact, when they receive funding, it's their responsibility and they're liable to their investors to grow and scale as fast as they possibly can. For instance, we want to make sure that the company, when they receive funding, they're improving their tech stack. They're also looking to digitally transform. Also, they want to improve their security. Amongst so many other things that they could be doing with this money, such as adding headcount or expanding their facilities. Think about where this plays in with your products or services. Now, just imagine this example. Say you've identified 500 target companies that you're going after. 75 of those companies just received Series B or Series C funding. Now, this is a gigantic buying signal from that company. This is an ideal time for you to reach out to that company and position yourself as somebody who's going to help them overcome their challenges and make sure that they can use that funding to the best of their capabilities and really prove a return on investment for their investors. Pro tip here, if you're working with a company that is also receiving funding, make sure you find out what other companies are receiving funding for your same investors. It's far easier to do business with companies who are receiving funding from the same investors that you are. Next, let's talk about projects. Now, projects that are going on within companies are extremely important to be aware of. And when we're looking at companies and what projects that are going on, a really obvious way to tell is by looking at their RFPs or their requests for proposals. Now, if you're reviewing an RFP from a company, you're probably a little bit behind the game already, because by the time companies create and develop this RFP, they already have a strong sense of what vendors they're going to be reaching out to and who they prefer to actually work with. So the key here is to actually get in front of these projects before they're happening. But how do you do that if you don't have a source of where the projects are or what upcoming projects are on the roadmap? How do you do it? Well, one way is to ask. You'd be surprised on how much you can glean from a conversation when you just ask a simple question like, what kind of exciting projects do you have upcoming that you're thinking about now? Or what kind of challenges does your company face right now that you're looking to overcome in the following year? Just think about ways that you can now interject yourself, your products or your services, to be able to solve those challenges or help complete those projects for that person that you're working with. Now, one thing that most of the companies that I work with that are highly successful are doing is they're actually sending out incentivized surveys to their target market. Now, they take a lot of time to make sure that these surveys have really crisp questions and questions that are going to give them answers that are important to them, tell them about that prospective company, and better qualify them as a target market company. So if you've developed this list of questions, you send that out in an incentivized survey. You ask about what kinds of projects that are up and coming. Where are their dollars going? How is their budget going to be spent? Again, you can ask about challenges that they're trying to overcome. So when we're talking about projects here, we want to pay attention, of course, to RFPs. We want to pay attention to exciting projects. And also give it a shot to send out that incentivized survey. It's incredible what people will do for a $100 Amazon gift card these days. But I tell you, pro tip here as well. With these incentivized surveys, you can transform that content into ebooks, webinar content, copy for upcoming marketing emails, all kinds of stuff. Because after all, you sent out a survey and people love to hear about survey results. So that's one key point and one big business advantage when it comes to listening to company buying signals. The third one here, and the final one that we'll talk about in this video, is mergers and acquisitions. It's incredibly important to keep a finger on the pulse of what companies are merging together, and when you have a company in your target market that's acquiring other companies. Because imagine for a second the overwhelming complexity that it takes to combine integrated systems, to be able to improve workflows, to be able to join teams together in an effective manner. So there's no momentum lost, but they have a net gain. Companies who are going through mergers and acquisitions aren't looking for a 1 + 1 = 2 scenario. They're looking for a 1 + 1 = 3 strategy. And it's you who are going to fulfill that product or service need in order to help them complete that strategy. Now, when we're looking at mergers and acquisitions, keep in mind that there's all kinds of systems that need to be integrated. There are exciting upcoming things that are happening as far as their workflow and making sure that they can become more efficient. So thinking about workflow. And also joining teams. Right? Think about where your company can come into play with providing the products and services to these companies who are going through these massive transitional periods. They're acquiring companies, they're merging with other companies, and they need your help. You know, at the end of the day here, it's all about doing something that's simple and doing it well. Now, when we think about buying signals, this is something we've heard about for years. In order to be most effective and most efficient at what you're doing as far as reaching out to your target market, make sure you're well aware of which of those companies are receiving funding. And remember that pro tip to be able to find out what other companies are receiving funding from your same investors. Projects that are happening, make sure you're well aware of not only the RFPs, but of projects that are up and coming 6, 9, even 12 months out. And also be aware of which companies are going through mergers and acquisitions. This is incredibly important information. And you can find some of this stuff online, you can find some of this stuff by reaching out, or you can find some of this stuff within a data provider. Whatever you call them, whether or not they're buying signals or hooks, here at Discover.org we call them scoops. Make sure you're staying on top of your game. Keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening within your target market. As Jim Rohn would say, you know, things that are simple to do are also simple not to do. So get out there and elevate your game. Hope you got value out of this one. We'll see you in the next video.